Hi everyone, I am here with your daily Bible reading. Today we're going to get into some more about what happens to Jesus after he's arrested. And remember, put the person that you love most in the world in Jesus' place. And think about them going through what Jesus is going through. The next few days will be really hard. And it'll be very heartbreaking until we get to the resurrection. Okay, so let's get started with Luke chapter 22, verse 54, reading through chapter 23, verse 12. Then seizing him, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Peter followed at a distance. And when some there had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard, and had sat down together, Peter sat down with them. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, "This man was with him." But he denied it. "Woman, I don't know him," he said. A little later, someone else saw him and said, "You are one of them." "Man, I am not," Peter replied. About an hour later, another asserted, "Certainly this fellow was with him, for he is a Galilean." Peter replied, "Man, I don't know what you are talking about." Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word the Lord had spoken to him. "Before the rooster crows today, you would disown me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. The men who were guarding Jesus began mocking and beating him. They blindfolded him and demanded, "Prophesy, who hit you?" And they said many other insulting things to him. At daybreak, the council of the elders of the people, both the chief priests and the teachers of the law, met together, and Jesus was led before them. "If you are the Messiah," they said, "tell us." Jesus answered, "If I tell you, you will not believe me, and if I asked you, you would not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the mighty God." This totally made them angry. They all asked, "Are you then the Son of God?" He replied, "You say that I am." Then they said, "Why do we need any more testimony? We have heard it from his own lips." Then the whole assembly rose and led him off to Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, "We have found this man subverting our nation. He opposes payment of taxes to Caesar," which Jesus didn't say that, "and claims to be Messiah, a king." Remember, Jesus said, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." So Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. Then Pilate announced to the chief priests and the crowd, "I find no basis for a charge against this man." But they insisted. They wasn't going to take no for an answer. They wanted Jesus dead. On hearing this, Pilate asked if the man... Wait. But they insisted. "He stirs up the people all over Judea by his teaching. He started in Galilee and has come all the way here." On hearing this, Pilate asked if the man was a Galilean, which just made Pilate very happy, so he could send him and wouldn't have to do nothing. When he learned that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased, because for a long time he had been wanting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he hoped to see him perform a sign of some sorts. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were standing there, vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him. Dressing him in an elegant robe, they sent him back to Pilate. They said Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this, they were enemies. Till that day. That's where we're going to stop with Luke today. Tomorrow we'll get into a lot more of what Jesus went through. Today we have two Psalms, Psalm 95 and Psalm 96. Here is Psalm 95. Come, let us sing for joy to the Lord. Let us shout aloud to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before him with thanksgiving and extol him with music and song. For the Lord is the great God, the great King above all gods. In his hand are the depths of the earth, and the mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his, for he made it, and his hands formed the dry land. Come, let us bow down and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the flock under his care. Today, if only you would hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as you did at Meribah, as you did that day at Massah in the wilderness, where your ancestors tested me. They tried me, though they had seen what I did. For 40 years I was angry with that generation. I said, they are a people whose hearts go astray, and they have not known my ways. So I declared an oath in my anger, they shall never enter my rest. And Psalm 96. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the earth. Sing to the Lord, praise his name. Proclaim his salvation day after day. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples. For great is the Lord and most worthy of praise. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Splendor and majesty are before him. Strength and glory are in his sanctuary. Ascribe to the Lord, all you families of nations. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Bring an offering and come into his courts. Worship the Lord in his splendor of his holiness. Tremble before him, all the earth. Say among the nations, the Lord reigns. The world is firmly established, it cannot be moved. He will judge the peoples with equity. Let the heavens rejoice. Let the earth be glad. Let the sea resound and all that is in it. Let the fields be jubilant and everything in them. Let all the trees of the forest sing for joy. Let all creation rejoice before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world in righteousness and the people in his faithfulness. And that was Psalm 96. And now our Proverbs for today is Proverbs chapter 14, verses 5 and 6. Proverbs 14:5. An honest witness does not deceive, but a false witness pours out lies. And Proverbs 14:6. The mocker seeks wisdom and finds none, but knowledge comes easily to the discerning. Alright guys, that was our Bible reading for today. I hope it touched your guys' hearts, as well as the next day at least, tomorrow, until we get through to Jesus' resurrection, because you're going to hear a lot more that happened to Jesus, what he went through, how people treated him. He just wasn't crucified. He went through a lot of horrible things before they crucified him, and even while he was hanging on the cross, he was put through more. I would like to ask a prayer request today for my Aunt Dora Carper. She has got one of those hips that were defective. She had a hip replacement, and it was one of the ones that are on recall. And she went and seen them, and they told her it would be okay. But now, months later, today she is in a lot of pain in her pelvis, her hip, her back. She can barely move. She has to try to get around with her cane. And she lives alone, so I'm really worried about that. She's supposed to go to the doctor on Monday, and they're supposed to x-ray it and everything. So please pray that whatever they find on the x-ray, that they find what is wrong and they get her all fixed up. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Sure. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Let's bring those souls to Jesus, and God willing, We'll see you guys again tomorrow with another Bible reading. Bye, guys. God bless.